It is Friday, September 15th, 2017. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And goddamn, was it a productive get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Friday. I mean, I got a really good workout in. There was like 4 of us in class. We were the hardcores. Had a purple belt and a couple white belts to play with today. And the purple belt was like, he's on it. He's on it. I mean, like, I can, like, when I was looking in his eyes and I could see by the way he was moving, he was actually a little bit older than me. But I could tell by the way he's moving that this guy is dedicated to his jiu-jitsu journey. And, you know, it really made me want to kind of clean up my game a little bit, you know, concentrate a little bit more on what I'm doing. And so today I tried to kind of relax a little bit and contemplate the moment, my body position, my opponent's position, and take just a good look around me and see if there's a possibility in there, you know. And like I sparred with this guy near the end of the class, and I mean, I had it, you know. I mean, I was done. You know, my cardio is just shit for a man my age. Actually, for a man my age, my cardio is fucking awesome, but by comparison to most of the people in my class, my cardio is shit. Anyway, so I was already gassed out. I was pretty much done, but you know, something in me just said, you know what? You drove your ass all the way out here. No, get back on the fucking mat, finish up class. You know, I was so tempted to just sit out the last sparring match, you know, let them go amongst themselves, let the instructor roll with one of them, and you know, I put my water down. I'm like, fuck it, you know, I got enough in me for one more. And so, you know, I got back out there, and this gentleman, he's very, very, very good, really. For I think we're both third degree white belts, so I mean, for his rank, he was very, very on it, and he managed to defend me very, very well. But I've got a few habits, and as y'all know, I've been trying to break myself of my pressure game habit, because I mean, it's just something in my mind, man. I want to like smother you, and I want to crush you, and I want to get a hold of your neck, and I want to strangle you, and I want to get a hold of one of your arms, and I want to break your arm. But you know, I gotta like tone it down, because you know, it's class. It's not real combat, you know. And like, so I'm real tense a lot of times, you know, and it's really hard for me to let it go. But when I do, I move really smoothly and everything goes right, you know. But so anyway, I've got a habit where I like to isolate people's arms, and I do it really nonchalantly. Like, you won't even know it's happening. It's like, oh, okay. All of a sudden, I got my arm up under your armpit. I got my arm up over your shoulder blade, and now it's just a matter of pinning your arm and throwing you in a nice little Kimura. And so I couldn't quite lock this guy into the Kimura. I mean, I had his arm almost in the position, but I had it like out of position far enough where he wasn't like reacting immediately at it. And so what I did was I grabbed the inside of his sleeve to try and get it to where I could reposition my other hand. But I mean, he was so squirrely and whatnot that he kept repositioning his hips and whatnot, and I couldn't get a good grip on that arm. And so I had him really, really close to the Kimura, but he managed to sneak out of it. I think I could have had him there if I had pushed on the right things. I think I could have finished it off. Like, if I'd reached with the hand that I had under his armpit, if I'd have reached up and grabbed his lapel and then like extended my arm straight, I probably could have got a better angle on his arm and isolated it, got him up on his side a little bit, and that would have allowed me to get a better grip on the arm. But anyway, I had a really good class. It was certainly productive. I think again, it's a real issue for me, because like part of the reason I'm even there is just to fight my own anxiety. I've always been a really, really anxiety-prone person. Kind of, someone call me a manic paranoid, but I don't try and let myself get too far, because a long time ago I learned that I am the master that makes the grass green. Not you. I am the master that makes the grass greens. I create the reaction. And when you realize that, it makes it easier to distinguish how much of it is your game and how much of it is the game of your opponent. Like, we were doing some pummeling today, and I found myself really, really like pressing the issue. I like to pummel, I mean, and I'm not very good on takedowns, but I it's just for lack of working them. Because like we were doing like a valley drop takedown today, and as soon as I figured out that I had to hold the opposite elbow tight and then reach around the other hip, oh man, no! I get you down on the ground like that, you're done ski. I'm gonna have your other arm trapped. The other arm's gonna be up over my shoulder. I'm gonna be up high guard on you. And Dunsky, you're going to be up on your side, and it's going to be armbar city all day long. Arm bars. That's if I ever get good at taking people down. So enough of that. That's enough of the old jiu-jitsu report. We've definitely had a terribly exciting week out there in crypto land. Bitcoin up and down and down and down and down and down. And then back up again. And we had Jamie Dimon talking a bunch of shit. And the guy is so fucking lucky, because I just like eviscerated him on Wednesday. And I did the dumbest fucking thing in the world, which isn't unusual for me, by the way. And I've been having a lot of network troubles, and today I finally just said fuck it and unplugged the printer. I figured that was the port that we were getting malware injected by, and of course I was right. As soon as I fucking unplugged the printer, all my bars come back on my network, everything is wonderful, I'm not getting reinfected. Anyway, so last Wednesday I did this massively tearing Mr. Dimon a new fucking asshole, tearing his company a new fucking asshole. Only a few people that were actually here were actually fortunate enough to hear it. And for those of you who were with us on Wednesday, rock on. Thank you very much for your support. You should feel very privileged. You were the only people that will ever get to hear the wonderful rantings that I had. And I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, some of it was pretty fucking good. Man, a lot of people are going to miss out. That is the price of not being here during the moment of transmission. Anyway, we play music on this show, so let's go ahead and throw it down. I am going to be getting into Mr. Dimon a little bit, because it seems his position in finance is more, I don't know, he seems to be using that as his, I don't know, his buying and selling signals. Like, I don't know. I'll get more into it on the other side of the break. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw it down. A little bit of Sixth Vivid here on Coin Metal. Yeah, I was having a little bit of technical difficulties there, so I just went ahead and cut the feed. Oh well, I'm sure that I'm being had to fuck, but fortunately my recording program is still working, so I'm just going to record. Fuck them. I'm going to leave it connected like I'm, because I'm trying to broadcast, and so if it's actually getting across with the low bit rate that I actually have on here, cool. If not, oh well, fuck them. I'm going to try and do it any way I can, And I don't know, this fucking piece of shit fucking program has been acting up on me, and so I really don't know what to do about it. I mean, I may I don't know. I may try and get another program to be doing this with, because apparently this one is entirely too fucking easy to hack. But I seem to be broadcasting at the moment, so I'm just gonna roll with it, man. Anywho, back to the show here. And I actually have a little bit of a newsletter thing here. It's Cryptonauts Daily, and we'll be digging in it for some material for today. Anywho, yeah, man, the whole week has just been terribly exciting. You know, the Verge was down. It scraped down there. I think it was 120 something, 120 cents. And then Bitcoin, man, Bitcoin took a major haircut. I think it was down there, I want to say like 2,800 or something like that. I don't know. Point being is, it's already back up to like $3,700 the last time I checked. So, you know, I really don't know what to think of this whole China business. You know, these fucking people, they got the majority of the mining is happening there, the majority of the trading is happening there, and why they decide they want to fuck with us so much is just beyond me. It's like, dude, you've got carte blanche on this shit. You know, if you wanted a harpoon to throw in the side of the fucking American economy, it would be shifting over to Bitcoin. And I mean, right now we're seeing a major transition where countries are actually trying to divest themselves of the US dollar. And no, this is not a beer that I'm opening, although that would be nice about now. But anyway, when you consider what Bitcoin does, the potential for global divestment of the U.S. dollar is just incredible, and why we're not seeing more of that, I don't know, and why we're seeing any kind of resistance with regard to China, that's beyond me. I mean, I think a lot of times they just do it. They do it to see what the effects will be. It's like, and then they figure out that people don't actually stop trading cryptocurrencies. They just stop trading them on cryptocurrency exchanges that are regulated. And then they lose complete track of what's going on. And then they say, well, that's not really cool because we're kind of control freaks and we really like to know what's going on. So we'll just STFU and let everything come back above board. And, you know, I really think that the only reason the PBOC says anything is just to give the market the idea that, hey, we're watching this shit. You're not going to just, you know, ramble off into the 21st century without us. Although, I sometimes think that's going to happen anyway, in all honesty. I feel like we're already living in two separate worlds where cryptocurrencies are an emerging world with its own balances and its own spheres of influence and so on and so forth, and its own alliances and own goals. And then the existing paradigm, which is trying to relive the 1950s continually. I mean, we've been trying to relive the 1950s since, I don't know, the 1940s? Somewhere around there. And we haven't managed to go back in time yet. You know, unfortunately, that whole Superman thing where if you run around the globe fast enough, you can get time to go backwards. Yeah, that doesn't work. You know, and the longer that companies like JP Morgan Chase and whatnot signal to the rest of the world that they are not interested in cryptocurrencies, the less effective their voices are going to be in the longer term. Because we all know that they're investing in it. We all know. I mean, if you don't know that, you're fucking stupid. They've been investing in this space since 2013, 2014. Ever since FinCEN actually came out and, well, was created and then came out and started talking shit about cryptocurrencies, all of these legacy investors have been involving themselves in this space. And it's really funny to me because when I assert such things in a lot of social media realms, they tend to treat me kind of like legacy players treat me when I talk to them about cryptocurrency. And I've really been wondering about that. See, I think that all of these legacy interests and whatnot, they are fully invested in cryptocurrencies and quote unquote blockchain bullshit. And their whole thing is they're working behind the scenes right now to try and merge what they have with what we have, and then take away what we have and make what they have that runs enough like what we have to pass for what we have, but isn't what we have. You know what I mean? Like, we won't be mining it. It won't have a publicly available immutable blockchain. It'll be centrally planned by a government or a bank, but it'll work a lot of the same way that Bitcoin does. Unfortunately, it won't work exactly as Bitcoin does, and because it doesn't work exactly as Bitcoin does, it will fail. And beyond that, I think a lot of these guys in the legacy space, they misread the cues of what Bitcoin means. You know, there are enough of them out there that think that cryptocurrencies were actually the product of, you know, central banks or something, and they thought up some wonderbutt scheme to get it into the public sphere. But that's not true at all. And those of us who have been around long enough actually know the truth. That Bitcoin started in people's closets, in people's fucking garages, in their dorm rooms. Long hours in dorm rooms, man. That's where Bitcoin came from. You know, so this whole idea, it's all a bunch of central banker shit and let them take it over anyway. No. That's all just a PR game. PR game. You know, if you can change what people think about it, about the past, you can change what people think about the future. And if you say to them things like, oh, you know, the central banks actually created Bitcoin, when central banks are actually quote unquote Bitcoin as far as they know, they make the connection. Oh yeah, no problem. You know, it's true because, you know, so and so told me a long time ago that central banks created Bitcoin. No, they didn't. They didn't. It was your next door neighbor. He's actually Satoshi Nakamoto. And I think that's a product of things like our movies. You know, it's like movies create perceptions in people that aren't real. You know, things like, I'll give you an example, like Superman. Okay, why do we care about like things like Superman or the Hulk or any of these guys that are superhuman? It's because they can do things that we can't, or that we perceive that we can't. And I mean, if you watch enough things on YouTube, you run across people doing parkour. That convinces me, at least, that human beings are capable of a lot more than the average like media outlet would give you the impression we're capable of. You know, I think that if we lived our lives a little more oriented with our physical capabilities, that media would look a lot differently than it does today. You know, for one, it would probably involve a lot more physical activity. They'd probably be doing like interviews while running or walking or some shit like that, or picking berries or something, you know, like more, you know. And it's this mimetic creation of the idea of man as being meek or less than capable. I find it really offensive, but it's something that's constantly conveyed to us. You know, we see tableau settings of families and whatnot, and they're all sitting down. There's no dynamism. They're not actively moving a lot of times. And what movement there is, it's like to create some sort of joke or whatever, but it's not. You don't get the impression that there's a lot going on. They're just like chilling and relaxing. And so you get the impression that that's how you're supposed to live. And that that's how normal people act. Whereas, some guy in a bush out there in fucking South America or Central America or out in Australia or in Africa or someplace not completely civilized, those things that you're seeing are completely meaningless to him. Because they have no relationship to his reality. His reality is the sun comes up, the sun goes down, there's wind, there's rain, there's trees, there's no trees, there's water, there's no water. It doesn't click with him what you're, if you were to put him in front of a TV and show him like Third Rock from the Sun, he'd be like, what am I watching? Why are they all sitting around doing nothing? Who's getting the firewood, man? Who's out fishing? You got a hunting party out? What the fuck? You guys are gonna die. I don't see anybody wearing any furs. It's gonna be winter soon. Aren't you guys prepared for winter? What the fuck? It doesn't have a relationship to what he enjoys, and that's, I think, a lot of what's going on in crypto is that we're able to live in our little insular bubbles to some extent. We have our social media and we can surround ourselves with people that actually know about cryptocurrencies. And we get the impression, because we live in these echo chambers, that everybody knows about cryptocurrencies. Or if they don't, that they've at least heard of them and, they're investigating them like you did. And it's not necessarily true. A lot of people just go off of what they see on CNBC or CNN, or MSM-silence, Wall Street Journal. It's like those guys say it, and some people might go a little bit further and dive into some zero hedge, maybe a little Drudge Report. But, very few of them are going to CoinDesk. Or at least not as many of them as we would like. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down a little bit of music. It's been a little while, and I'm feeling the necessity for a smoke break. So, I've been wanting to play something off of the newest prong, and let's go ahead and throw down some Divide and Conquer off of 0 Days here on Coin Metal. And that was Ministry with Lies, Lies, Lies. So as I was saying previous to the music break there, I've been seeing accusations on my Twitter feed, or at least assertions rather, that JP Morgan themselves have been buying the dip. And there was this really big spike. Like if you look at the chart, it's going down, 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 and then there's this huge spike, and somebody made a picture of that section of the chart, and then they put an arrow next to it and wrote in JP Morgan or Jamie bought here or something. It was something to that effect, and it's like, come on, man. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You can see the writing on the wall. A pig squeals the loudest when it sees the axe. It's just a reality, But I don't think it really needs to be that way. I wanted to touch on this one article just because it's like a recognition of the wonder of Bitcoin. And here it is. This one's on Reuters. Bitcoin bounces 20% after dipping below 3,000. And this is by Jemima Kelly. Jemima Kelly. Wow, nice. Clearly no penis. London. Bitcoin bounced by more than 20% in the space of just 4 hours on Friday, having skidded below 3,000 earlier as Chinese authorities ordered Beijing-based current cryptocurrency exchanges to stop trading. After a vertiginous climb to record highs close to 5,000 earlier this month, Bitcoin had plunged almost 40% in the 12 following days, with the sell-off driven in large part by fears of China cracking down on the market, as well as a warning from JPMorgan's CEO Jamie Dimon that Bitcoin was a, quote, fraud. Of course, he never, this is just a side note on my part, but he never actually tells you what kind of fraud it is. The rapidity of the fall, matched by losses across hundreds of other cryptocurrencies that now rival Bitcoin, had driven fears that a giant crypto bubble was finally bursting. Bitcoin looked likely to record its worst week since 2013, but after 7 consecutive days of falls, Bitcoin was up around 13% on the day by 15:38 GMT at 36.37 on the US Bitstamp exchange. BTC equals BTSP, around 22% up from its earlier low and leaving it just 13% down on the week. Chinese exchanges were told by authorities to immediately notify users of their closure and to stop allowing new user registrations as of Friday, according to a government notice. But although Chinese exchanges used to dominate Bitcoin trading, according to their reports, because of the fact that they did not charge fees, volumes have plunged since January, when Chinese authorities made fees mandatory. That, industry experts said, means that although China is still important in the crackdown, there would probably not be enough to cripple Bitcoin unless it was followed by exchange shutdowns in other parts of the globe. Quote, Chinese volumes account for less than 10% of global volume. They are no big deal, said Charles Hayter, founder of cryptocurrency analyst website Crypto Compare. Beijing-based platforms OKCoin and Huobi, which are among China's biggest exchanges, said on Friday that they plan to stop yuan-based trading by October 31st, confirming earlier reports. Quote, waiting for the axe to fall is worse than the actual event. Leaked documents seem to be clearing up uncertainty, said Hayter. But also, a bounce of this magnitude was on the cards after such steep losses. Of course, we're buying the dip, motherfucker. Shanghai-based BTC China, a major Chinese Bitcoin exchange, had said on Thursday it would stop all trading from September 30th, citing tightening regulation. Smaller Chinese Bitcoin exchanges via BTC, BTC, and Yunbi also announced similar closures on Friday. You know, this was predicted. I've predicted it. Other people have predicted it. That if you tighten your grip, all you're going to do two things. And China figures this out. It's like they've got amnesia, all right? And they're so fucking desperate. Like they have intentional amnesia, and like every 2 or 3 months or so, somebody gets a wild hair up their ass and says, "Oh, we got to crack down on this Bitcoin thing." And then they try and do it. Then they watch how the market reacts. They find out really quick that they lose all kinds of fucking money by doing this, because all of the trading doesn't actually stop happening. It just goes underground. It just goes in ways that they can't fucking get a hold of. And if anything, it increases the premiums and incentivizes people to go out there and sell it in the black market. So they're not actually achieving their desired result, right? And what ends up happening is about a month of this goes on, They look at how much money they are losing, how much influence in the crypto sphere they're losing, and they say, this isn't really good because somebody else is picking it up. The United States is picking that up. Or, the Philippines are picking it up. Or the fucking Japan's picking it up. Or Hungary's picking it up. Or somebody else is doing the transactions that could be happening in China. But no. We got to put a foot down because we got to protect. Fuck your protection, China. PBOC, if one of you guys is listening, okay, don't take this personally or anything, but check it out. These cryptocurrencies as they currently exist, okay, without the protection and without the stamp of approval of a official government, what ends up happening is, if there is a fuck up, if somebody is fucking up and stealing your fucking money, you know what happens? The first fucking victim goes on Twitter, goes on Reddit, goes on Facebook, goes on whatever fucking social media is available to them and rains shit on the person that ripped them off. And then the next person that they rip off does the same thing. And then the next person they rip off does the same thing. And before you know it, there's such a tidal wave of shit falling on the people that are ripping people off that nobody does business with them anymore. They close their fucking accounts. They try to get their money out as quickly as they can. But this reaction happens in days, happens in hours, happens in minutes in some cases. If it had a stamp of approval of the PBOC, what kind of shit are you going to be wearing on your face when you allow, through your regulatory shit, delays in reporting? So, they're collapsing, they got your fucking seal of approval, and the whole time they're shorting their own stock, they're shorting their own fucking coin, and you can't do anything about it. Nobody can do anything about it because they're within your legal framework. And of course, they'll bribe you guys, and so you'll make it out really great. But how many people are they going to be ripping off in the process? How many thousands of Chinese traders are going to be unfairly losing their ass in the fraud? Potentially millions. Because in the United States, having read the legislation that they're passing here, there are reporting delays of 30 days. Okay, this Equifax thing, that was a demonstration. The reporting delays that were there, while the fucking executives were shorting their stock, that was 100% fucking legal. It's written into the regulatory legislation. It gives them these time buffers that they can do shit like sell their fucking 401k holdings and then take the money and turn around and short the fucking company stock because they know it's going to tank 10-14%, and they're not going to tell anybody about it. They're just going to trade it. Oh, I feel like I'm just going to short the company today, because I think something might happen. My spidey sense is tingling, man, and it's telling me that, a short order is in order. I need to capitalize. Give me a fucking break, man. You want to invite that shit into cryptocurrencies? We have full, open, transparent markets right now. And sure, there's fuckery. But the fuckery doesn't last all that long. It doesn't have the shroud and the seal of approval of any national bank or anything like that. It doesn't have licensure. It doesn't need it right now in most places. But what we do have are public blockchains. And we can see when they have glitches. And people watch the shit like hawks. All fucking day. And it's happening 24/7, 365. 9 years of fucking uptime like that. And it's not going away anytime soon. If anything, it's going to expand whether you want it to or not. It's like a pregnancy. You know, the conception happened. It happened in somebody's backyard. It happened in the backseat of a car. It happened in the closet at a party. I don't know, man, but it happened. And 9 months from now, that thing is going to kick loose, and there's nothing you can do about it. But that's what's happening all over the place with open source cryptocurrencies. And again, the harder you push on the open exchanges, the harder you make it to interface with them, between them and the banks, the more you are going to see people transitioning out of the means that you have to monitor and control their shit. If you're trying to control it, you want it above board, right? Well, make it easy. Make it easy. Make it fucking pleasurable. Come on, man. You want me to participate? Give me some fucking carrot. If all you got is stick, you can go stick it. Because I can find ways around you and get the fucking carrot without you. So, quit this fucking, we're going to throw the hammer down. You want to cripple the United States? The United States is whittling a fucking hammer to put down on this thing. It's inevitable. They're doing it state by state right now. They're starting with fucking New York. They just did it to Washington. There's a few other states that have passed money transmitter current cryptocurrency tax bullshit shit. And they're whittling a fucking hammer because they think that they can control this shit. And I'm telling you, PBOC, let off. You want to fucking panic guys like JP Morgan? You want to fucking put a major panic in Goldman Sachs' heart? Cut the regulation. I mean, Russia's been relatively quiet. I'm sure that they're probably trying to craft some sort of ban hammer too, but it's not going to work there any better. And you're going to find out within the next 30 days, despite all the shit that you've said concerning, you know, what kind of regulation you're going to push and closing down people in your fucking nations, you know what's going to happen? The shit's going to go somewhere else. It's not going to infect Bitcoin bunch at all. And again, you're going to lose what control you had. So, let off. Throw some panic into some people's pants, man. Let's see it. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. I'm feeling some 9 Inch Nails coming on here. And I can't think of a more appropriate song here. The Hand That Feeds by 9 Inch Nails. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Prong with Remove, Separate Self. Yeah, you gotta do that sometimes. Kind of let go of things. I've been trying to do that more in jiu-jitsu. Kind of let go. See where things are going. Like I give you a good example today. I just remembered this while we were in our music break, but I was in a certain position with the guy I was rolling with, and I noticed that if I just tucked myself just a little bit one way, I could hook back around and get my other leg on, get my left leg on the outside of his right leg, and go for a back take. And I almost got him. I managed to get up on his side and start going for the arm, but I didn't quite close the deal. Nonetheless, it was something that I hadn't gone for before, and that, you know, I guess I was really trying to listen to my instructor, because he was trying to tell us that when you're tensed up and when you're pre-planning too hard, you miss a lot of opportunities that are right in front of you. You know, that you can just I can just reach out and grab that arm, and, you know, it's mine now. And I almost got this guy that I rolled with 3 times, and they were all opportunities that, I know that if I were a little more relaxed and a little more in the moment that I would have been able to close the deal. Like that Kimura, I should have fucking locked that thing down. There should have been no reason for him to get out. I had the arm completely isolated. He was completely unaware of it, and it was too late for him. But he managed to flip me over. I'm having a real hard time figuring out how he managed to do it. But he swung his legs up and he flipped me over. And I was like, wow, how the fuck do you do that? Anyway, it's certainly nothing that we actually trained. Anyway, so I guess where I'm kind of going with that is trading. You know, there's been a lot of really good opportunities that if you've been on the ball, I mean, really, you can't expect to find Bitcoin lower than it's been this last week. I mean, come on now. I don't expect it to go below 3,200 again. Not in the near future. I don't expect it to go down below 3,200 again. I mean, unless there's like some major splittings. Like I noticed this thing. It was this fucking chart. And I think I mentioned it on Wednesday, and it was a picture from Breaking Bitcoin. That was some meeting, some confab in Europe, and it was this breakdown of how they intended to break up Bitcoin, and there was like 8 different variants there that were separate from Bitcoin proper, but then like it gave like a cumulative total for what they would be, and it was like $7,800 or something like that per Bitcoin. But there were all these little abstractions and how they actually intend to service those implementations, or if they're going to be altcoins like Bitcoin Cash was, or is rather. I'm not entirely certain. It wasn't really made clear by the diagram that I looked at, and but it did kind of concern me a little bit. You know, that there are people actually looking at Bitcoin as something that they can expand like that. And there is the concern on the horizon about the 2x and whether or not there will actually be a 2x fork. Personally, I'm agnostic on this. I mean, I don't know. I'm vengeful enough that I want to say go for it. I really do. You know, these fuckers talked all kinds of shit, lied and lied and lied to get SegWit in, okay? And the deal that brought most of those fucking mining pools to the table was SegWit 2x. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's eat the shit you served. You know? You put it up, you made the situation what it was, eat the shit you served. You could have fucking just shut the fuck up and made a fucking altcoin, and if your Wonder Butt scheme was so great, people would fucking use it. But no, we gotta do a user assisted soft fork. We gotta do BIP 148. We gotta throw a fit. Do what we want you to do. Give me a fucking break. So yeah, again, I'm up in the air about it. I think on one hand, it'll create more confusion and dilute Bitcoin that much further. On the other hand, they created the fucking situation. Eat the shit you were serving. You know? You fucking made the promise. You signed the fucking NWA or NYA too, so who the fuck are you? You know? And it is funny because there were all these calls of bad faith on the miners. And there were already rumors before the fucking NYA came out that the devs or whoever was presenting the fucking SegWit 2X, they had absolutely no intention of going through with it. And so it's like, they wanted the fucking miners wanted bigger blocks. They've wanted bigger blocks for the last 4 fucking years now. And we've been jerking them off, or the devs have rather, with this SegWit bullshit. And it hasn't been 4 years, it's more like 2 years. But the point being that we've needed to expand the block size. That's been the logical answer this entire fucking time. And the fact that we're now with SegWit, I don't know. I think they need to eat the shit they served. You know, if you were willing to go for it at one point, you're willing to go for it now. So anyway, off of that subject, because we were talking a little bit about regulation on the previous side of the music, and I've got an article here on CoinDesk by Mr. Stan Higgins, clearly has a penis. Thai securities regulators seek appropriate rules for ICOs. And this was authored on September 14th of 2017. And here it is. Securities regulators in Thailand have issued a new statement on initial coin offerings, ICOs, advising that some token tails? Jesus Christ, Stan. I've said this a few times on this show. Read your shit aloud. Read it aloud. Then you can get rid of all this shit that actually passes your spell check, but it isn't the right fucking word. Anyway, continuing on. That some token sales may fall under the country's definition of a securities offering. The Securities and Exchange Commission Thailand, SEC Thailand, said today that some ICOs may resemble financial returns, rights, and obligation, thus triggering the relevant regulations. It also expressed concern that in some cases, token sales may be used to facilitate fraud against unwitting investors. At the same time, SEC Thailand hinted at a more accommodative stance compared to other jurisdictions, most notably China, which issued a ban on the funding model earlier this month. And actually, they didn't ban them, they just limited their viability on exchanges. The SEC Thailand encourages access to funding for businesses, including high-potential tech startups, and realizes the potential of ICO in answering startups' funding needs. In cases where an ICO constitutes offering of securities, the issuer will need to comply with applicable regulatory requirements under the SEC Thailand's purview. Notably, perhaps echoing statements that came from Canada's securities regulators last month, SEC Thailand suggested that it may carve out policy accommodations for some token sales, though it is too early in that process to tell what approach the agency might ultimately take. Quote, to strike the balance between supporting digital innovation and protecting investors from potential ICO scams, the SEC Thailand is considering appropriate approaches on ICO and welcomes comments and suggestions from the private sector, the statement read. The past weeks have seen a spate of similar announcements from securities regulators around the world, including Canada, Singapore, and the U.S., among others. And let's see what the U.S. one is. We'll crack that one open next. And so, yeah, you know, at least Thailand is demonstrating some sort of rationality with regard to ICOs. I mean, they see them as a viable funding model for startups, and yet at the same time are expressing some sort of concerns. And I I read this article on Wednesday, and god damn it, I'm tempted to read it again, honestly. And it was actually, I don't even know if we got around to it. I think I might have referred to it, but I may have actually read it. It was a report by some guys in Finland, and they had done a study on Bitcoin to determine what regulation model should be appropriate for it. And their conclusion was more or less that not only did it not need regulation, it was kind of like self-regulating. And I thought that was probably the most intelligent thing I'd heard from an institute of quote-unquote higher learning concerning cryptocurrencies. You know, I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff from MIT and other guys like that they're heavily invested in the study of blockchains and the type of innovations that can be made with them. However, what I think many people do not know about cryptocurrencies is there is no top-down. You know, the top-down is in the individual companies that operate within this space, but there is no top-down forcing us to utilize them. There's no gun to your head in cryptocurrency. You can transact in Bitcoin, you can transact in Dogecoin, you can transact in Verge currency, you can transact in a billion other fucking currencies, Dash, fucking Ethereum Classic. They're all out there for you to use. And there is nobody that can tell you that you can't use them. You know, it's one of those things that's like implicit in the idea of control. You know, the idea that a state or a federal government can actually stop you from doing certain things with cryptocurrencies, or that they're capable of exerting control in such a way that they can limit you. I mean, if you were to do things completely decentralized in the quote-unquote cloud, online, hosted remotely, they're not going to touch you. You know, you put your hosting outside their jurisdiction and that's it. Suck a dick. And you know what? There's going to be more and more jurisdictions out there that realize this, and they're going to throw up their hands and just say, fuck it. You know what? We've got so much bigger problems to worry about right now that this is just like, go ahead, do whatever the fuck you're gonna do. And those people in those places are going to do exactly that. And the result is going to be something that we've never even dreamed of. Imagine, I think, an economy where the average person could be spawning their own code and their own cryptocurrencies and then exposing them out onto the public market, building their own communities, and developing their own economies on a global scale, and via social media and stuff like that. And there won't be any kind of national borders or anything like that. There won't be embargoes or any kind of restriction on the trade of monetary value drifting between person to person. And when you break economies down to person, but put them on a global scale, you could be uniting thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even millions of people within your marketplace that are completely disparate and non-local at all. But imagine what you could be facilitating as far as trade goes, and what kind of effects that would have on the global market at large. You know, if the majority of the people that actually have money to use, because the US dollar is becoming kind of useless, just about as useless as gold is for transacting monetary value, because there's one thing that's absolutely necessary for any currency to work, and that's volume. You have to have volume. If you don't have volume and it's not in people's hands, then it's completely fucking useless. It's like a language that's written on a piece of stone that's nobody's written in or read for 5,000 years. It's completely fucking useless socially. I mean, as an antique, as archaeological value or historical value in showing us where we were at one point, okay, it's got that kind of value, but it doesn't have any value in the average social thing, the average social construct. Like, as far as like books go, if you were to put it in a library, imagine it were a book carved on a stone. If you were to put it in a library, people would turn their nose up at it just in the fact that it's a big fucking stone. Because who wants to carry that around in a bag? Nobody. You want to carry your Kindle or a couple paperbacks or some shit. You certainly don't want to be hefting around a big ass stone. And beyond that, you wouldn't be able to fucking read the thing. So there, again, completely fucking useless to you. Gold, same thing. Okay, it's shiny, it's heavy, it's a store and value in that. Okay, but like, what other utility does it have? I mean, it's a nice paperweight. I guess I could make circuitry or jewelry or something out of it. But if I don't have a foundry that I can melt it down with, and I don't have molds that I could pour it into, it's completely fucking useless to me. I mean, I guess I could carve it up or, stamp coins out of it, and if I can transact those with enough people, I can build an economy around that. But otherwise, it doesn't have any real world utility to me. You know what I mean? I guess I could use it as an anchor, or maybe cudgel, or wang somebody over the head with it. But the gold itself doesn't really have any quote-unquote intrinsic value. It's just a fucking shiny rock, man. It's a shiny fucking rock. That's it. What use does a fucking shiny rock have in the digital age? Absolutely nothing. These monkeys like Peter Schiff. I love Peter Schiff. I really do. But these monkeys that talk about connecting a digital currency, a digital cryptocurrency with a volume of gold is fucking ludicrous. Unless you take possession of the gold itself, it's fucking ludicrous. I don't give a fuck what kind of custodial models they have, or they tell you that they have. 9 times out of 10, what's going to end up being the case as far as their actual model is they're going to have a room. It's going to have a pallet, and it's going to have a stack of what looks like gold, at least. At most, it might actually be gold, okay? But then it's going to have 8 billion video cameras pointed at it, okay? And at any time, you will be able to connect to the video camera that's designated for your account and view that gold is there. But what you don't know is that the 8 billion other cameras have connected people to them too, and they're all claiming ownership of that gold too. That is the case. 9 times out of 10. You are living in the digital era. What is a digital currency like Bitcoin? It is a proof of work. Do you know what proof of work is? It means I already did the work, and this is the receipt proving that I did the fucking work. It's not a promise to pay. It's I already dedicated the fucking electricity, the hardware, the bandwidth, the patience to mining the fucking Bitcoin for you to transact in. That's what Bitcoin is, and other proof of work cryptocurrencies. And people want to conflate it with bullshit coins. Some blockchain tokenized shit that they have behind a curtain, and you got to trust it. And fuck that. Fuck that bullshit. And you can tell the mimetic migration. You can tell where they're trying to drive it. Okay, all you have to do is read these fucking white papers, and they will tell you exactly where they want to go. Alright? When you read Lightning Network's white paper, when you read Segregated Witness's white paper, they are talking about competing with Visa. Okay? Or being Visa. Okay? And they use all of Visa's metrics. The 40,000 transactions per second, that's Visa's highest transaction volume ever. Okay? And they're using that as a goalpost for segregated witness / lightning networks. That ought to tell you something. We're trying to fit this under the hood of Visa. And I know that a lot of people think I'm an alarmist because I say that shit. But you just have to look at the track record. Okay, if you look at the mimetic drift of all the little factors that we talk about in Bitcoin, you'll see a divergence and a lessening of emphasis on the really big factors of Bitcoin, like immutability. When was the last time you heard the words immutability in direct relationship with a blockchain? Fairly rarely these days. I don't hear immutability talked about all that much. It's because the newer blockchains are not immutable. They are malleable. They are after the fact editable. Yeah, they've figured that shit out. They figured out how to do that shit. So, I mean, there's so much potential for abuse in that kind of model too, that it's basically just back to the drawing board with, we're back into trust. You got to trust the transactions. And I had a little back and forth on Reddit with somebody about this, and they just don't seem to understand what the, I guess either one of us does not understand. Okay, and it was clear to me that one of us either had not read the paperwork or had misread the paperwork or did not understand the implications of the paperwork or something. But it was off. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down a little bit more music before we dive back into articles. And I already played a little bit of prong. It's Friday, so let's throw down a little bit of Push Monkey. It's nice, fun Friday type music. And fuck it, now here on Coin Metal. Bringing down all the walls indeed. That was Megadeth. Good Morning Black Friday. I love playing that on Friday. I don't know why. Anyway, we're going to flip the channel here. We've been talking about Thailand and their relatively healthy stance towards cryptocurrencies. And I wanted to flip over. There was an article that was connected to that previous article, and this one, oh shit, Stan, I don't think I can read this to people. This thing was written in July 25th. Yeah, I'm sure I've read this already anyway, so never mind. Fuck you, Stan. I'm not just gonna keep reading your shit. Anyway, I wanted to flip over to the SEC for the United States because the ICO thing here in the United States, I think they really need to leave it alone. It's like altcoins. We've been spawning them left and right for probably about 4 or 5 years now. And what ones were scams, quote unquote scams, they've come and gone. They've begun and they've died. They followed their natural evolution because they were, of course, quote unquote scams. And yes, a limited number of people did get hurt. There's no doubt about it. With Mt. Gox, that one was kind of different. There's a lot of fuckery involved with that one. Like that event, if it had not happened, you would have seen the Fed get really serious about raising interest rates. Not this 0.25 bullshit. No. they would be raising the interest rate like 5, 6%. And yeah, it would have hurt people initially, but it would have remotivated people to save because they can actually earn interest instead of, not getting anything. But that's just like an event. It's an eventuality that it would happen like that people would start seeing like 3 and 4% interest rates on their savings accounts because the banks would be able to extend that. But we didn't see that. What we're not seeing is any kind of indication from the legacy markets that they're actually wanting to interface with us at all. And I find that kind of strange on a couple fronts. This is one of the fastest growing technologies within finance, and legacy financiers are like completely phobic of it. I don't think that I think it's a facade. Personally, I think they're involved up to their fucking armpits, and that they're playing to the public, saying that we don't have any interest in this stuff. It's not something we want to invest in. It's a fraud. It's gonna blow up. Shit. And they keep making these noises like they don't have any interest in it. And like I said, I'd be willing to bet if I really was to be dirty and go into that finance office in the mall that's right next door to the Bitcoin ATM, if I were to go in there and like just accost one of the guys and look at his monitor, I bet you anything he's got a fucking tab open on Bittrex. I'd be willing to bet a lot of Verge. I would bet like 10,000 Verge. I'd find a motherfucking at least a Bitcoin exchange account in one of the tabs on his browser. And I mean, the guy's fucking high trying to convince me that they're completely disinterested in cryptocurrencies. If you're disinterested in making money, you're disinterested in cryptocurrencies. If you're interested in making money, you're interested in cryptocurrencies. Because this is the new money. I don't care what anybody else says, this is the new money. And will be the new money in the background, at least, for a very, 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 very long time. I don't expect that it's going to change until we get to the point where we don't actually need to transfer between individuals. And I don't think that the market will ever become that diffuse again. I think there'll be like little enclaves of it, like you can be semi-sufficient out here, semi-self-sufficient, get some solar panels and shit, get a local electricity cooperative going. That would work. Then again, you might have to worry about things like regulation and people throwing a fit that you're displacing the demand of yourself and your neighbors from the local power co-op, or I don't know how they arrange the electricity around here. I should probably educate myself about that. Because it is absolutely essential for everything I do. So, it would kind of behoove me to take some interest in it, right? Anyway, I don't know that I really want to give these guys too much more wind. These Jamie Dimon and his monkey noises. I bet you anything he is that big green spike. I saw something on my Twitter feed, and I think I'd mentioned this previously on the show, where it's just it was a section of the Bitcoin chart, and it's like red, and then this big green spike. It's like, yeah, that's Jamie Dimon buying. He's probably the only one that could buy that much volume at this time who isn't already committed, Anywho, I do have an article. It's on Fortune magazine. Jamie Dimon thinks, quote, Bitcoin is a fraud, but it can still hit 100,000. Fuck, if it's a fraud, why is it going to get 100,000? Anyway, continuing. This is by Lucinda Shen, authored September 12th, 2017. A fraud it may be, but Bitcoin could reach $100,000 before it collapses, says JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, now that I've bought a shit ton of it. Appearing at a CNBC Institutional Investor Delivering Alpha conference in New York Tuesday, an executive reiterated his dark view on cryptocurrencies in general, saying that, quote, it's not a real thing. That came just moments after the CEO called Bitcoin a fraud at a Barclays event earlier in that day. Dimon argued that governments will eventually crack down on digital currencies because cryptocurrency is suited for illicit use. Fuck you. It's suited for use, and people use it for illicit purposes. Just like the US dollar. Or, oh, you fuckers. Goddamn pop-up. Or transactions by those in sanctioned countries like North Korea. Bitcoin shed some 2% on the news, falling to about $4,100. It's fallen further since and then recovered a bit since. If you're in Venezuela or Ecuador or North Korea, you are better off probably using Bitcoin than using their currency, he said. That can't possibly be true in the United States unless you're speculating, and that isn't a reason to say something has value. Even if Dimon doesn't see Bitcoin as a legitimate long-term play, the CEO acknowledges that it could one day reach a truly lofty valuation thanks to the euphoria surrounding it. I'm not saying go short. Bitcoin could go to $100,000 a Bitcoin before it goes down, so this is not advice on what to do, the chief executive said Tuesday. I refer to it like the tulip bulb crisis. That comes as Bitcoin was reportedly banned by the Chinese government on cryptocurrency exchanges. That's not true at all, leading the digital coin down from its all-time high of about $5,000. While Dimon acknowledges that Bitcoin could reach $100,000, he also compares to the so-called tulip mania phase of the Dutch Golden Age, in which excitement over tulip bulbs helped make some varieties worth as much as a house in the 1630s. Eventually, it will be the emperor without clothes, he said Tuesday, a sign that his call on the cryptocurrency perhaps even reaching $100,000 wasn't exactly solid prediction of Bitcoin's trajectory. God damn, girl, learn to fucking write. Bitcoin's trajectory, but rather a hyperbolic pointing toward just how volatile and unpredictable the investment could be. Earlier that day, Dimon said that Bitcoin could perhaps reach $20,000. Jesus Christ, dude, make up your mind. And perhaps a sign of just how excited investors have grown over Bitcoin. 3 different investors at the conference Tuesday said that their relatives had begun investing in Bitcoin or were at the very least highly interested in it. Dimon noted that his daughter had bought some, while Tiger Fund CEO Julian Robertson said his son, who was, quote, very into Bitcoin, tried to teach him about the topic to no avail. At the same time, Starwood Capital CEO Barry Sternlicht revealed that one of his relatives was also trying to start a Bitcoin-related hedge fund. At any rate, Dimon's assertion that Bitcoin could one day hit $100,000 will hardly please some advocates who argue that the cryptocurrency may eventually go mainstream. In the same conference, venture capitalist Chamath Palahapitiya of Social Capital refuted Dimon's call on Bitcoin. The investor, who said he has been massively long on Bitcoin since 2012-2013, said that governments would not be able to eliminate it since it is a decentralized system. Eliminating Bitcoin would require that governments each convince each other and every person using the cryptocurrency that it is worthless. Quote, "The genie is out of the bottle," Palapahara said. Sorry. This is part of... Alright, so cool. Anyway, we've never really needed these guys to call us legitimate to be legitimate. I don't think people really understand that we've never really valued what they've had to say about cryptocurrencies. And so, I mean, the people that do value what they have to say about cryptocurrencies aren't really going to be involved. And they're probably going to be the people that get wrecked. I mean, it happens. You know, you get these kids, they think that, oh, you know, I'm going to invest in Bitcoin and I'm going to make a shit ton of money with my financial aid check. And then they get fucking wrecked. And then they spend the next, 9 to 10 weeks trying to figure out how they're going to live for the next 9 to 10 weeks of the semester until they get another fucking financial aid check. I mean, I would hope they're savvy enough to not sell the bottom and all that other shit, but you know what? Some people, they get in while it's really red hot, and they think it's gonna fucking go to the moon, and they see, a nice little 20-30% profit, and they stay in thinking they're gonna get a 50%, and then it tanks 15, 20%, 30%. And they not only lose what they initially put in, but a little more, especially if they were going on margin. But yeah, it's kind of predictable that these things would happen, and what are you gonna fucking do, man? There isn't an SEC that's going to be able to protect these people. It's their own stupidity. Your stupidity gets a hold of you, and you start listening to it, and it fucks you. And oh my God, it happened to somebody yesterday. It's going to happen to somebody tomorrow. It doesn't matter how much regulation there is. It doesn't matter how much oversight there is. It's going to happen again tomorrow. And you might as well just forget about it. You might as well forget about trying to control shit and control how people actually use this shit. Because in the long run, this is how the economy is going to go. I mean, it's predictable as the fact that it's going to rain next month. I mean, shit, it's going to be October. It rains in October here. It's a certainty. If it doesn't rain in October here, there's something wrong. Of course, then again, they might have gotten our rain down in Florida. But, they're getting plenty of it. Anywho, I wanted to touch on this article with, it's on CoinDesk, and this one is by Mark Hochstein. It's written on September 15th, 2017 at 8:16 UTC. China Shmina. Bitcoin trading is way more distributed now anyway. Mark Hochstein is the managing editor for CoinDesk and a former editor-in-chief of American Banker. In this opinion piece, Hochstein takes a quick look at the current state of the Bitcoin markets, finding that just because there's smoke, there's not necessarily fire. The St. Mt. Gox, and Bitcoin survived that too. With all the panic selling following the Chinese government's renewed crackdown on Bitcoin exchanges, it's important to remember that the country is no longer the trading hub it once was. All else equal, that means the market may take less time to recover from the latest sell-off than from the one that took place in 2013. You know, when the People's Bank of China suddenly declared that Bitcoin was not a currency and ordered payment processors to stop accepting it. Just a reminder of how bad the fallout from that day really was. During the 3 years it took Bitcoin to recover from those bombshells, it lost nearly half of its value, dropping from an all-time high of $1,150 to under $500. But that was at a time when Chinese Bitcoin trading accounted for as much as 90% of the global volume, as shown in the chart below from CoinDesk's second quarter State of Blockchain report. The state of affairs persisted until as recently as January of this year. God damn it, I got something weird playing in the background. I gotta take care of that. There we go. Since then, however, China's share of Bitcoin trading volume has fallen dramatically. This is likely for two reasons. China's January ban on no-fee trading on the country's exchanges dramatically reduced volume there, and the rise of trading volumes in Japan and South Korea have, as shown in the chart below. And yes, there does seem to be an increasing volume, as well as US dollars. Global trading volume now appears to be more distributed than ever, our State of Blockchain report noted in June. Remember also, this time around there hasn't been any formal guidance from the government, and it appears local exchanges Huobi and OKCoin will continue letting users trade between cryptocurrencies. In short, this is far from a blanket ban. Of course, there are many variables that influence the price of Bitcoin, so there is no guarantee of a speedier recovery. But thanks to this more diversified market and, in context, still limited action, it stands to reason that the regulatory interventions of a single country, even the world's most populous country, should have less impact on the Bitcoin price over the long term. Let's see here. There's a little bit of additional shit here. No. Anyway, yeah. I think that they are absolutely correct that over the longer term, we're not going to see that this is really as big an issue in cryptocurrencies as some might have imagined. However, I see a bit of push-pull going on, okay, where the PBOC's made a statement on ICOs, right? But they have not actually banned them entirely. They leave the door partially open to review. And so it was just a notice of, be on your toes, guys, we're watching you. And that's fair enough. Please do. But what you're going to see, if you actually let the fucking throttle off on the ban hammer there, if you let back on the regulation, what you're going to see is these currencies are going to develop new economies within your economy, and they're going to increase efficiency in the transmission of monetary value between persons. And that's going to hasten the speed of government and everything else. I think that what's really missed with cryptocurrencies is they can actually reflect market demand in the right places. You know, when you notice that you can make way more on your natural resources by utilizing them on an individual per capita basis as opposed to industrial conglomerate level, you start reevaluating how you actually want those resources utilized. And I think with cryptocurrencies, we will have the money that we can exchange between ourselves and directly to specific markets. Specific market participants. And it's a vision I've had for a long time. And I know people think it's like completely fucking nuts because they don't fish. But with fishing tackle, like I sat by and watched this happening while I was working at Turner's Outdoorsman, where perfectly good products simply were unavailable during certain times of the year. And it wasn't because the fish didn't eat them. It was because, according to somebody's formula and somebody's graph, the volume was low enough, the demand was low enough during certain portions of the year that they could lower their production. But see, that was determined itself by marketers, not actual like demand. It wasn't, a reflection from the fishermen themselves. It was a reflection of, this is the marketers, this is what they thought, for this specific geography, they only buy so much of this for this area, so we'll limit the availability of it here and move the volume elsewhere, or simply not produce it during that time of year, or produce it at limited quantities, just not devote that much production capacity to it. But what that resulted in was that the products themselves were misallocated. They would be put on the shelves at the wrong time of year, and because they were put on the shelf at the wrong time of the year, their demand wasn't actually reflected. If they'd had the same product out 2 or 3 months later, they would have seen higher demand, and it would have reflected a greater interest in the product, and so on and so forth. They would still be in existence. But there were a lot of companies that I watched fall by the wayside because they simply couldn't match the actual demand of their market. And I think with cryptocurrencies, we can get things down to their actual like production level value. Like, in manufacturing, you have like a per item cost. You can narrow your costs down to one item, okay? And so maybe you accumulate some orders for a week, but you could address individual customers. You might have to cash a few of them, like I said, but you could issue directly to them like custom products, and that increases the premium on the products that you're selling. But beyond that, if you have things on a website for people to purchase, right? You can have them up there as long as you're willing to host the pictures and the descriptive material and the entries in your shopping cart and whatnot. But they could be up there a lot longer than they could be on a shelf. You know what I mean? And so that is where we could be doing things better with regard to our markets. Because I see it all the time here in the local tackle stores where they don't have things that I want that are of higher demand right now. And that's because they're going on some fucking market schedule driven by, demand trends from a decade ago up to date, that don't really match reality. When I go to the local Cabela's, I actually find a lot of shit there for fishing for walleye. Well, you know what? There's plenty of lakes and streams around here, but there aren't that many walleye. I think you have to go up to like Portland to get into walleye country, and that's like 150 miles away. There's a lot of tackle stores between here and fucking Portland. What we have demand for is stuff like largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, salmon, steelhead, trout, crappie, bluegill, carp. But we have stuff on our shelf, like I said, that's servicing constituencies of fishermen and whatnot that don't live anywhere around here. I mean, really, are you going to come all the way the fuck down here just to go to Cabela's? Probably not. I certainly wouldn't. I I don't care if there's a Bass Pro Shops up in Portland. I'm not going to drive 200 miles just to go to it. I'm dedicated, but I'm not that dedicated. The savings on the plastic worms when I buy them directly at the Bass Pro Shops, that's not worth the 200 miles worth of gas that it's going to take me to get there and back. But anyway, it's one of those things that I think is kind of a missed opportunity. I wish I had the money to just build the fucking website on my own, and I guess there's a lot of services that I could do that with. Anyway, it's something on the back of my dome, Let's go ahead and throw back down into a little bit of music, and then we'll be in the final stretch. And I've been wanting to play some Marilyn Manson, but the only song I really feel comfortable playing on here is The Beautiful People. Fuck it. Let's do it. The Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson, here on Coin Metal. And that was A Shogun Named Marcus by Clutch. Anyway, I was just thinking about something. And we could have just seen, the ultimate bear trap with regard to Bitcoin. Because at last report, it was up to, $3,700. And does this short... Oh, shit. It's a 38.66 right now. Fuck, man. Everything is up and green. Fucking Bitcoin Cash is 466.70 and Ethereum is at 270.58. So, yeah, it looks like we've moved on. The fucking weak hands have lost their shit. Probably bought back in now that it's going back up. That's hilarious. So anyway, I'm watching that on Cointelegraph right now, and this next article is written by Darren Pollock. Big banks want to destroy Bitcoin before it destroys them. It seems as if the talk of the people's currency has started to sting the ears of those who traditionally have a monopoly of money, banks and governments. Recent negative statements by big banks and governmental crackdown on digital currencies and ICOs can be seen as fightbacks by these institutions to the growing popularity of Bitcoin. Bitcoin always has had the potential to be a new currency free of control by big banks and governments. But as adoption has spread, the threat has become real, limiting its potential. It should not be seen as surprising that banks such as JPMorgan are spilling vitriol and rhetoric about Bitcoin being a quote fraud. Bitcoin reaching mass adoption and succeeding spells the end for big banks and traditional financial institutions. The same goes for governments. A decentralized currency takes a huge amount of power out of the hands of the government, who look to keep tabs on currency within their borders. Taxes and regulations of money is a powerful tool for governments. There has even been talk about how Bitcoin is the most crowded trade, indicating that traditional trading is clearly taking a hit. I almost read that as taking a shit, but taking a hit. The concerns for the traditional. With a successful digital currency, big governments will lose seigniorage income, the benefits derived from printing money, and they will lose the ability to control the economy. For the banking sector, losing the ability to handle the money that flows between central banks and the economy is at the core of the banking business and the very essence of the monetary economy. Baseless fears? These fears may well be a little too strong, although Bitcoin flies in the face of a traditional monetary economy, and it is a decentralized system. There is an understanding that it can be supplementary rather than an undermining technology. Apostolos Pedis, adjunct professor of economics at LIU Post, has said that, quote, digital currency, as is the case with Bitcoin, helps to smooth the lending process. Recall what happened in 2007-2008 during the financial crisis. Credit dried up as banks stopped lending and the markets froze. With a digital currency like Bitcoin, lending is decentralized or peer-to-peer, and as a result, lending may continue, allowing money to reach those who need it. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And you know, it kind of follows the theme of what we've been talking about tonight, that, you know, despite all this hubbub with regard to China, it's really not that big a deal. I mean, we're already seeing indications that even within China, despite the lack of being able to trade between yen and Bitcoin on exchanges, or at least the looming specter of that, because they still haven't even closed down trading. They've stopped taking in new accounts, but they haven't stopped trading on the exchanges. And I don't expect that we really will see a cessation of trading in the public sphere in China. You know, I mean, I think that's a bridge too far. It's not going to happen. You know, they're going to get closer and closer to it. They're going to see the volume decline. They're going to see the resulting collapse in their economy, and they're going to say, "Why are we giving up all these jobs? Why are we doing this? Why are we giving up our segment of the economy that's blooming around this?" You know, and they're going to come to the realization that it's not in their best interest to do that, just like they have every other fucking time they've done this. This isn't the first time. If you've been around Bitcoin for long enough, you've seen this about 5 or 6, I don't know, maybe even more, maybe like 10 or 15 times, where the fucking People's Bank of China makes a bunch of noise, and there's fluctuation in price, takes time to recover as things readjust, and Bitcoin on. That's pretty much been the story for the last 9 years. You know, PBOC is going to ban Bitcoin. And they see the fucking drop in price and they, oh, good. You know, maybe they're buying at that time. But then, of course, it keeps going down, and so they sell because they've got weak hands. And then it goes back up again. I mean, what do you want, man? I mean, you're not gonna stamp it out. It's not going to go away. So get the fuck out of its way and let it become part of your economy. It can only do good things. You know, that article was talking about giving up control. What it doesn't say is that position isn't traditionally banks. Oh, well, you didn't know that, did you? It's not even the traditional place of governments. Holy shit! That was probably the first time you ever heard that one. Governments do issue money. Or, governments have always issued money. Banks have always issued their own monies. That's nothing new. Okay, what's new is the idea of a monopoly on currency creation that's the result of a partnership between private and governmental entities. That's never been done before. Or if it has been done, it's collapsed because of lack of full control or some shit like that. But the point being that's really what's at stake is this monopoly control. And it's pretty much gone. I mean, because now we're not trading between 192 national currencies or whatever the fucking number was. We're trading with thousands of cryptocurrencies on top of all of that shit. And the displeasure of value, I mean, we're only talking about 150, maybe 200 billion if you really want to get down to it right now. That's nothing compared to the global economy. You're talking about trillions, quadrillions of dollars every fucking year in the global economy, and people are all worried about us. I mean, the article that I'm about to read you right now is from CNBC, and more importantly, it's from material derived from JP Morgan's top quant. And so here we go. JP Morgan's top quant strategist echoing CEO compares Bitcoin to a, quote, pyramid scheme. Yeah, whatever. I'm not going to read the bullet points. JP Morgan's top quant strategist backed his boss this week in bashing Bitcoin, warning that the cryptocurrency is likely a, quote, pyramid scheme. Marko Kolanovic, the bank's global head of quantitative and derivative strategy, said in a note on Wednesday that in addition to being volatile and difficult to value, quote, another worrying aspect of cryptocurrencies are some parallels to fraudulent pyramid schemes. And you would certainly be an expert at those, wouldn't you? Bitcoin needs to be mined or discovered by people using computers to solve problems. Its murky origin raises questions, he said. Yeah, murky my ass. It's fully fucking public, asshole. Quote, it is believed that an unknown person or persons known as Satoshi Nakamoto before disappearing mined the first 1 to 2 million coins, or about 10% of the coins that will ever exist. Yeah, big fucking whoop-de-doo. He added, quote, mining becomes progressively more difficult and eventually unprofitable. That's not true at all. Bitcoin surged more than 10% on Friday, but was still on track for a weekly loss during a tumultuous period of trading. Earlier this week, JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon called Bitcoin a, quote, fraud, saying that the cryptocurrency won't end well. Dimon was speaking at the Delivering Alpha conference presented by CNBC and Institutional Investor. Ooh. Bitcoin plunged about 13% Thursday after one of the biggest exchanges in China said it will shut down its operation. BTC China said in a tweet on Thursday that it will close down its operations by September 30th as Chinese authorities crack down on cryptocurrencies. But to be sure, many see